and I wanted to welcome you all, both familiar and new to Springboard, to the very first ever Springboard original series, Real Talk, where we bring top-notch senior level designers to the Springboard community to talk about their UI/UX journey, the challenges that they face getting into the industry, as well as how they've overcome those challenges in the first place, whilst also giving you, the audience, a chance to get advice, inspiration, and get answers to the questions you have from professionals who've been in your shoes during our live Q&A. For those of you new to Springboard and interested in getting your start in the design industry, you're in the right place. Not only because you're here with us at this amazing event, but also because Springboard offers 2 amazing UI/UX courses that get you job ready and industry ready and come with, guess what? A job guarantee. You try getting that deal somewhere else. And right now we're offering a 10% discount to those who enroll in either course if you sign up with the links that we have down in the description. If that sounds of interest to you, definitely check it out, but don't leave just yet. If you haven't already, don't forget to smash that like button, share this video with a friend, and don't forget to, of course, subscribe. With that said, let's get into today's conversation. What is going on, Springboard? Welcome to the very first Springboard Live with your host, Brandon Gross. We're super excited to have you guys today with an amazing guest. For those of you who registered for today, you guys know what you're getting into, but I'm gonna let you guys, for those of you who just popped in today, I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit of who we have as a guest, what we're diving into, and then I'll let our guest, because I'm not gonna steal his thunder, get into a little bit of his backstory and how he got into UI/UX. But first off, I want to say hello to you guys in the chat. We have Richard, Gabriella, Jeremy, Sam, Laura. What is happening? Welcome to Springboard Live. And for those of you who are just now hearing about this, we have an amazing guest who is Ruben Cespedes. He has been doctor turned UI/UX designer, self-taught, and he's here today to talk about his journey into UI/UX and his challenges, how he overcame those challenges, as well as we'll have time for you guys to have a Q&A segment where you guys can get answers to all the questions that you get desired to ask. So with that said, as we go through this journey, feel free through this conversation to drop any questions, comments, whatever in the chat. We're here for it. So with that said, introducing Ruben Cespedes. How you doing, my man? How you feeling?
Hey, what's up, Brandon? Pretty good, man. Super excited. Thank you so much, Brandon, of course, and Springboard for putting this together so we can talk about, you know, my journey as a designer, and then how I transitioned from graphic design to UX to product design, and hopefully like people get inspired by my story.
For sure, man. You have a lot to, we were talking before the call, there's a lot of, there's a lot of challenges in, a non-traditional route. And I think you have a lot of information of, we'll start with setting the table today of, what were you doing before UI/UX? Because the big question we were both having a conversation in is, it's not when you get in the door that's the challenge, because once you get your foot in the door in a situation, you can figure things out. But it's how did you, with really nobody kind of backing you, having to figure out, what is the direction? How am I going to get into this industry? From kind of having the trajectory as of a doctor. So let's start there. And actually, for everybody, let's talk a little bit about where you are today, and then we'll start back from the beginning.
Okay. Yeah. Right now, I'm a principal of visual interactive designer at Dell. Probably about 2 months, I started this new job, this new journey. And before that, I was working at Stash as a senior product designer. And then before that, I was a UX manager. But now let's take you back 15 years ago when I started my career. So, everything started back in 2004 when I decided to, do you want me to talk a little bit about the doctor stuff, or?
Yeah, anywhere, because what I think is extremely interesting is that one thing that a lot of people have challenges with is extremely today, and you see it with people who join actually Springboard, is they're coming from another industry and they're coming into technology and they're like, how am I going to do this? I've done all this education. It seems impossible to go into another industry. So I think it's going to be very valuable for everybody who's listening to this, either live and after the fact. How did you make the decision to, one, go from something totally different to where you are today? And what did that transition look like? Let's start there.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm from Dominican Republic. a beautiful island in the Caribbean, and I was meant to be a doctor. I mean, that's the only thing I wanted to do when I was a little kid, right? So my
Yeah.
mind was already made up. I wanted to be a doctor, but then I moved to the U.S. And when I moved to the U.S., the policies and everything, requirements and everything was totally different from Dominican Republic, right? So I couldn't do what I wanted to do right away. One of the barriers was the language. I couldn't speak English when I got here. But long story short, there were so many different obstacles in the way, and I was kind of like devastated. And one of my cousins took me to this technical college and called Technical Career Institute, and actually show me like, hey, there is a program here that you might like. And then I went in and took the first, I went in and took the first class type of thing, kind of like a
Yeah.
tryout, and I fell in love with digital media arts. I was very like artistic when I was little. Things come to me very naturally, but it was second nature to me, right? So I didn't have to do or force it to be creative. I was creative, but it was part of me, right? So when I saw that program, I was like, wow, but this is something that I have a passion for it because I do it. I used to draw and everything, but not necessarily I wanted to make a career out of it. But guess what? Like, you have to do whatever it takes in order for you to move forward. So
Right.
instead of me crying about not being a doctor or not being in the medical field, I moved and shifted my passion to design. And I started as a graphic designer, right? Digital media arts, that was the program name. And then I got into this college. I loved the whole program. So by the I would say a year within the program, they offered me a job as a junior web graphic designer. So that was my first job. I was hooked. I was like ready to go. I was doing like $6, 6.25 an hour, and this is back in New York City.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was blown away because I was doing what I was studying at the time, but I didn't know a lot about, advertising, marketing, design, print design. I was learning while I was like working. So I got my first job. Then after that, I got another job, which was my real job out of college. I was a photo editor. Like, I was actually like photoshopping like models and dancers and doing a lot of retouching and stuff like that. So I started
Right.
as a graphic designer, like that's my background. And people sometimes they think like I went to a university for UX, and no, I started as a simple graphic designer that, dabble into so many different things. Like, I was at one point in my life, I was a Flash designer when Macromedia Flash was a thing.
Back in the day.
Yep, exactly, out there, and I loved it. And that's one of the things that you got to be willing to, you have to be willing to learn new things, new skills, and because you don't know where you end up. And that's why
Right.
me trying different things, like from graphic design, I went to print design, editorial design, advertising, flash designer, until 2007. 2007 was the year where I switched my mindset from just like being a designer to be more like a user focused approach. Instead of pixel perfect thing that we all engraved in our minds, like, oh, everything needs to be perfect. I kind of like changed my perspective on design and UX, and that's why I had a mentor who kind of like taught me about how you can, design a website better. And I was like, oh, how do you can design it better? Because I remember back in my days, I just make a website that looked cool and that's it.
Right.
I love that. And I think all of us, we do that when we start this career. We just want the approval of ourselves, but also other designers, other peers, like, oh, that looks great, that looks sick. Just like, put it in your portfolio. I
Yeah.
used to do that. But then, because this mentor talked to me about UX, and guys, just so you know, UX is not a term that we're using right now. UX has been with us for years and years and years. It's just like the way we are, the way that is trending now. Companies now adapting UX, but UX has been with us for a long time. So I started like reading about this user experience and design and putting everything together, and taught myself how to code.
And how did you teach? How did you? Because throughout all of this, I think it's because we're kind of just going through like the generic, and I'm trying to be very careful not to dive because there's a lot of holes that we can dive into very quickly. But I want everybody to kind of just follow follow the path that they're on, but also answer for everybody. While you're learning by yourself, what kind of tools are you utilizing to help you move to that new skill set? Because so far we kind of talked about you've moved from the doctor path, and then you took some classes in graphic design. You were the graphic designer at first, and then you started to move into photo editing, and then you started to now you're learning from just talking with mentors, things of that nature, UI, UX, and coding. So through all these hops, how are you getting to the next step? How are you learning to move one step above? What tools are you using, or things that were helpful?
Yeah, back in the days, we didn't have social media. We didn't have YouTube. We had was books. That was things. Another was like to try out things and fail so many different times. That's another thing. And also we had lynda.com, I think. If I'm not mistaken, 2006. Oh,
wow,
7.
that's back in the day. Lynda.com, yes, that was definitely the resource.
That was it was very expensive, but the company that I worked for like paid for everything. So I kind of like submerged myself into that. And I was like at nighttime during my free time, just coding pages, and failing so many times and creating a simple header, right? That it was so simple. But to me, it was difficult, or for anyone that doesn't know how to code, it's difficult because you have to everything needs to be perfect. Everything is math. And when we talk about, coding and stuff like that. So that part of me, I'm a curious person, right? I had to know why things work and how they work. So to me, it was a challenge. And then I taught myself how to code by practicing like every single day, almost like every day, because I wanted to have it. I wanted to have that skill set, right with me right now. And Lynda was one. And most of the time I use books. I remember these books from Macromedia that one of my teachers used to say like, hey, you need to buy books. You need to buy. I never bought a book until I think later when I started reading books about UX and design principles and all of that. But then like going into the library and just like learning a little bit about JavaScript, because I didn't know what JavaScript was. I mean, I know it was a language that people use it in the background and to do little things. Then I had to go to the library and just grab one of those JavaScript books and just like read about how you can make an alert, which is something so simple, right? So I started doing it myself and trying to test it and see, and then that's how I learned. I mean, those were the tools that I used back then. And then I kept just reading stuff on internet. Blogs became a thing back in 2006, 7. And then I started reading. Yeah.
Really quickly, like now today, kind of to move this in a little bit of a direction and still stay in the UI UX side of things. Yeah. I think, and actually I'm really curious your thoughts with now the ability to have, and this is actually why I like curriculum is great when it stays up to date. That's what I really, Springboard prides itself on, and what they do consistently. They do a really good job of that. And one thing that I would like to say, like back in the day, it was so you had to like cherry pick and be like, no, what I'm trying to accomplish really doesn't coincide with this book that I picked up. Like that was a challenge. So what do you think nowadays with things, with courses essentially? Like, rather than having to cherry pick and kind of like put a Frankenstein together, do you think that the internet of today is just so much more beneficial? Like, what are your thoughts?
It is insane. It's insane how many resources we have nowadays. It's insane. I wish I could have this because I would like, to be honest, like I think I'm a really good designer and UX designer, and I did it with what I had back then. Yeah. So imagine if you put me in a position that I was so hungry to learn new skill set, and you give me all these resources, I would have become, I don't know what, the Hulk maybe, or but you know what I mean? Like now people have to take advantage of all these courses. People have to invest in themselves. People are afraid to invest on a little book, or even like buying a course or something like that. They're like, oh no, that's not going to teach me anything. Guess what? It's going to teach you. It's up to you to do it, to actually want something, just go get it. And then platforms like Springboard that will give you what you need, like a specific skill set that you wanted to be good at. Just like go purchase that course or whatever, and just like learn, because the resources are here for us, and for everyone to take advantage of. I had to do it the way I told you. I had to go into books and look for specific things that I wanted to do, and then trial and test and fail so many times, and then come back again with the final. Nowadays everything is so intuitive and automated, and they teach you the things like in a way that you get it right, and then they test you on little things that you wanted to do, right? So the best way to practice, the best way to learn is to practice a lot, and these programs will give you that right away. So that's the big difference. Like there's a lot of resources out there, and there's no reason why a designer who wants to become a UX designer or a product designer is struggling right now. There shouldn't be any struggle. It's just like, it's a mindset. You have to do the work. It's not like you're gonna take one course and now you're an expert. No, it's not gonna happen like that. You have to put in the work. Yep.
Yeah, I think you put a lot of gems in there, but I think it's so amazingly awesome that today, like, I get, when we were first learning, we had to build our own foundation to like get ourselves up. But today, with, like you said, like where the resources are, the foundation is already built. Just purchase the foundation and go on your way.
Yeah.
But we have some. We're gonna segue here very quickly, because I'm trying to save a lot of good questions from you guys in the chat. Keep it going. We're going to try to hold on to them for the very end, but keep doing a good job. But and thank you for your questions, by the way. So we really appreciate it. So let's talk about. We talked a little about the journey of getting in. We've talked about you had to self-build your foundation. Today we have foundations kind of built for us. It's just our job to kind of take that opportunity and run with it. Let's move away from non-technical or technical stuff into non-technical. What was it like as a non-traditionally educated designer to get into the workforce? Like, how did you learn about that process? Like, I know what it was like for me, but can you tell us a little bit about, like, as you were skill building for yourself and then you finally start talking to these people who have jobs, what was that like? Can you give us some insight there?
It was a struggle. I mean, like, it was a struggle when I come to a company and talk about UX, right? People were like, this guy's crazy. Like, what is he talking about? We're not going to allocate X amount of hours for, like, build the UX, a better user experience. We just need a website. What are you talking about? So it was very challenging for me. I have to convince peers, colleagues, bosses. Like, I have to go in and kind of like sell this user experience.
But this was back in the day when this wasn't a term. Let's preface that.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
This is back when nobody wanted to know about UX or probably didn't know about UX, and I have to like come in with a plan and say like, hey, we need to include in the estimates that we are providing to the clients, we need to include time for user research and all of this stuff that involves UX, right? And they were like, oh no, Ruben, you're crazy. You don't need to do that, and we don't need to do that. But then one person actually gave me the kind of like the approval of like, okay, let's try it your way. Since you're so desperate to do it this way, let's see. We're gonna give you a project, and we're gonna take it as a test run type of thing. And then when I did it, the result was like insane. Like the way I handle like the UX plus, because I was like a one one-stop shop where I did
Yeah.
the UX, I did the UX, I did the design, and I did the development, like the front end development. Um, and we save for that particular project, we saved like more than 20K on that project, which is amazing. And then as soon as we did that, then my boss, he was like, "Hey, I want you to just integrate something and do the same thing for all the projects that you work on." So they saw the value that the UX brought in, but I struggle. Like,
Yeah.
man, like I was like in a way that I was like, I should probably give up and just like don't talk about UX because people are just afraid of it. And then if we talk about UX to the clients, they're not gonna get it. So it was
Yeah.
just like pretty hard for me at first. But
I
then,
want to pigeonhole. Yeah, go ahead. But then,
yeah, no, go ahead.
no, because I was about to say that one little sliver where once you had proof that what it is that you did to improve the actual functionality or business KPIs or metrics that they were trying to go for, they were like, oh, let's turn the knob and send some more money that way. So for those of you guys in the audience, I think I'm kind of not re-splaining, but I think what you're saying is for everybody, because there was some portfolio questions like how important case studies are, not just from a beauty standpoint or you're proud of your actual digital work, but the actual impact that your work had on the business is huge. Because I'm assuming, like, from that one story you just you just told us, that next thing that you were going to explain was, as I started to build, and I'm going to let you finish it, but as we build up case studies, this is why I'm a huge proponent of taking I would love to know also you, just like taking work to get case studies when you have no work, finding work for yourself to build the case studies, so that when it's time to hire time, you have a beautiful cornucopia of examples of how your work drives money. I'm not sure if that's the correct term, guys. You picked the dictionary up on me, but do you follow the same line of thought there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is something that I will give kind of like towards the end of this live, where I'm gonna give you like my tips of how to transition from graphic design to UX. I will give you like 5 to 8 tips of the things that you need to have in order to make that transition. And one of them is actually that it's creating, having a strong portfolio with case studies. And now that you mention that, it's like, remember back then when I was doing this presentation and I had data to back up what I was doing. Data we can leverage data. Like, we do that all the time now. Like that's our go-to for making design decisions and everything. Back then it was just like, oh, I like this, make it pop,
right,
make the logo bigger, do it. But now like data is key. Data is telling you what the users want and need, and what they're clicking, what do they like, what they don't like, and stuff like that. But going back to my story type of thing, from that moment that I took that user focused approach rather than the pixel perfect thing, everything changed, everything shifted in my career, and that's what I love about it. Because I started seeing people like coming to me for questions, kind of like a consultant. I was working for this company and they were coming at me to consult my services as a UX, even though UX wasn't a thing back in 2009, 10, whatever, for that particular company, right? Not in general, but for that company, UX was, a new term that Ruben, this crazy Latino guy, was bringing into the table. But then we saw that we had results, and then we started implementing a process. And that's another thing, guys. Like, when you start working on your UX stuff, you're gonna build a process. It's gonna be your own way to do, your process of UX process. But every project calls for a different UX process. Not everything is set in stones. Like okay, so we're gonna define the problem. We're gonna evaluate. We're gonna prototype. We're gonna design. We're gonna develop, and then we're gonna launch and evaluate again. It's not gonna be the same all the way through. Sometimes you gotta You got to jump things ahead depending on the project, the budget. There's a lot of factors when working on projects that in variables that can, dictate the course or the journey of that particular project. But you have to be willing to adapt. As UX designers, we are here to help to create better user experiences, to create products that work, right? So we have to be empathetic with not only the users, but also with the project, with stakeholders, with project managers, product owners. Like, it's with everyone. So I kept learning throughout my journey, and jumping from, I remember, like, from senior web designer to a senior interactive designer, where I was doing more stuff. I was doing like front end design and also some interactive and some animations within in there. And then from there, work with pretty big companies like Volvo Trucks, Mack Trucks, and help them actually enhance their user experiences and create better experiences for their existing products that they were probably made in the 1990s. So you can imagine, like, the big jump from working with tables to now, floating divs and whatever. Also, other companies like Crayola, I get to work with them. Bic, I get to work with them. And now I'm working at Dell, which is pretty awesome. And all that struggle and failures and all that stuff that happened to me back then made me the person and the product designer that I am today. It's all about learning. It's all about pursuing your dreams. I mean, even though, like, UX was a thing back then that nobody knew, and you hit that ambiguous phase where you don't know, like, where might take me. But I was reading the field. I was like, everything is gonna go mobile. Everything is gonna go digital. So I'm gonna move, to that path and just, like, be the best I can be in that path, and not just sticking with, like, print design, for example. I'm not saying that print design is bad, or editorial, or packaging. It's whatever you want to do, but I wanted to be in technology, right? And I wanted to be doing tech stuff and design and be with the biggest and do the things that are cool. So I choose my path, and that's what I did. And instead of, like, choosing a path of, maybe I just want to do brand design, right? I could have been a brand designer, and I have done it too, and I enjoy the process, and I love that. But rather, I went to the direction that I wanted to take, and just, like, UX was my thing. I went and pursued UX, and got me here.
That's awesome, man. And one of the things that we'll wrap up with this last question. And if you guys, I see you have quite a few nice questions. So if you have any more, drop them in the chat, because we're going to move on into Q&A right after this. But I think this is going to be a nice last question for us. So, because this is, I think, a big nugget that everybody here can take away from, because each step that you went through as a graphic designer, as a web designer, as a, what have you. And so let's talk specifically UI UX. Very specifically, because there's some portfolio questions here. When you had to sell yourself to Stash versus another company, or Dell versus another company, or any company in the past, did you have to change up your portfolio based on who you were talking to? Because I'm sure both you and I know a lot of people don't change their portfolio. They just start hitting apply on LinkedIn. and I think one of the things that, because of your, your movements throughout the industry, I'm sure you know just as much as I do how important it is to know who has the power to hire you, and what exactly it is that they want to hear from somebody that they can hire. So can you explain to us, throughout your interviewing processes or trying to get into doors, how did you, bit my tongue, how did you change your portfolio to match the direction you were trying to go in your career?
Yeah, I didn't change my portfolio. And the reason why I didn't change my portfolio is because the case studies that I chose to be on my portfolio were different. All of them, they were different. From a mobile from a mobile design for Android, iOS, to a big website, to a product page, to something else, I think. So having diversity in different kinds of projects, case studies in your portfolio, would allow you to not change it, because you're already showcasing different type of projects. If you have
Diversity.
a specific type of project, kind of like if you have only done mobile, right? And you have 5 case studies about mobile. They want to see something else. They want to see something different, a different project. In my case, in my portfolio, I have different flavors. Let's say that way. We have different. You have a mobile application built that I was part of, right? And then I have a big website that it was pretty complex that I was part of. But then throughout all those case studies, I showcase different parts of skill sets that I have, like photography and UX and visual and art direction and information architecture and user research and stuff like that. That's what they want to see. And that's why I didn't have to change my portfolio. I was just like smart enough to put there different things so people can just like, oh, so this is different from the first one. I love that, because I showcase some skill set from the first one, but then on the second one, I might not, have the skill sets or I didn't do the same thing I did on the application, but in here I did something different. I did user research. I did qualitative and quantitative data, and I did A/B testing and stuff like that. And that's what they want. They want to see also who you are as a person. It's not everything about flashy case studies, but they also want to see your personality, and you have to tell that through storytelling through your portfolio, which is very, very important.
Agreed. I think that's the two big things we can all take from that is, one, be able to show a breadth of your skill set through your portfolio. Don't just show like, hey, even because I'm sure you see this as much, where we talk to somebody that is asking questions of how did we get to where we are, what have you, and they can do so much, but then they start showing us their portfolio, and we see like 1/10 of the possibility of the individual. So being able to show, one, the breadth that you have to offer in terms of your skill set, and two, what you want to show, only the things that will help you go in the direction you want to go. So like, for example, I'll show you, well, I'm not gonna put words in your mouth. You tell me if you agree with this. And then we'll go into Q&A, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I know we got like 10 minutes. Thank you for your patience. You guys got some good questions. For example, if I wanted to work at Netflix or wherever, and my portfolio, there's 2 candidates. There's a candidate 1 they're very skillful, and candidate 2 also very skillful. However, they have another streaming platform case study that is excellent in their portfolio, and I can kind of see, as somebody at Netflix, I'm like, oh, they've been working on the problems that we have and we're trying to solve. How would you be able to which candidate would you take if you worked at Netflix? Candidate A or candidate B? If they're both equally as skilled, but one of them has very similar problems that you have at the company.
I'm going to talk for the companies that I work for. I'm not going to talk from my perspective because it's kind of like I could be biased. You know what I mean? But here's the deal. They're probably going to go and pick the one that has similar backgrounds. Why? Because, like you said, they are having the same problems, and this guy probably knows have tackled some of those problems already. So, in my case, I was hired by Dell, for example, because I was showcasing a data grids and data analysis from a project that I didn't have in my portfolio, but they asked me for it. Companies are going to be like, hey, do you have X, a case study about this and this and this? And I was like, yeah, I do have it. I just don't have it online because of NDAs and stuff that you had to sign. And then I showcased that, and that told them right away to Dell, hey, this guy, apart from He knows, design, UX, product. He also, he knows how to do this, and that. So yeah, very important is to, if you have to adapt and update your portfolio to that specific company, then do it because it's going to help you. In my case, like I said, I didn't have to do it, but in this case, in the case of Dell, they asked me for something specific that I didn't have on my portfolio. But then what I did is just like I grabbed permission from that company and then just like presented to Dell, and then they came forward and then said like, hey, we love this guy, he's familiar with this, so let's give him the job. And I got it. Sure. So it's the way we have to adapt to any situation. It's the same thing for portfolios, for interviews, for everything.
I think that's the best advice right there, man. All of today was really good advice. And now we are moving into, we're a little late on our Q&A. So now it's time, guys, time for Q&A. Continue to drop your questions down in the chat. But we have some here. First off, thank you so much for asking Sam Guile if we could actually see one of the portfolio pieces here. Sadly, we cannot. But if you check out Ruben or follow up with him after, I'm sure he'd be happy to have a conversation. But let's get a couple of quick ones out of the way while I read some of the lengthy ones. First one is from, let's see, The Shock. How do you know when it's time to switch from graphic design to UX design? This is a really quick one, and I'm going to get some of the juicy ones while you answer.
How do you know? It all depends on you and what do you want. There's no wrong answer like here. If you want to keep in the path of doing graphic stuff, visual stuff, aesthetics stuff, then you keep doing what you love to do, right? If you want a challenge and you want to do something different, then you go ahead and move into that direction and start like investing in yourself. Start like reading books. Start like taking courses and stuff like that. Start like networking and doing a lot of these things in order to become a UX designer.
Got it. Next one, really good one from Matt Lau. How can bootcamp grads break out of the typical bootcamp mold that portfolios often follow? That's a good one. Thank you, Matt.
What was that again?
I got you. How can bootcamp grads break out of the typical portfolio molds that they typically follow? There's a template that you kind of see from grads, and you start to see some designers just stick with it. How can they differentiate themselves after graduating a boot camp to be better prepared for their personal goals for the workforce and the work that they see for themselves?
Yeah, one of the things that you can do is like, and you should have, is build a portfolio, right? And people think like they get out of college or boot camp and they're gonna get a job right away, and it's not gonna happen. You have to build your portfolio. You have to have case studies, like we talked about. You have to have strong case studies, and also define your process, define your storytelling, your design thinking, and put that in there. Like if you don't have a project, go to local businesses, go to nonprofit organizations and volunteer to create a better user experience, and then grab that, use case studies and put it in your portfolio. That's the best way to you can come out of a boot camp or university and then start looking for jobs and stuff like that.
Word. I'm going to add a little 2 cents there. I'm really just recapping what you're saying, but I think it's a huge help. Ruben just, put in a nice little package, but knowing a little tactical, knowing where you want to go. So if you want to work at Netflix, or let's say I want to be at your team at Dell, I'm going to check your portfolio. We have a guy in the chat, Roy, who says, welcome to the Dell team, by the way. I would check Roy's portfolio. I would check the entire team of Dell's portfolios, because that is proof of concept of where I would like to be. So if I have Dell on my, my roster in my brain, okay, I want to go to Dell, I want to go to Netflix, I want to go to Facebook. I would research their team because they got in. Why did they get in? I would look at their stuff and be like, okay, well, maybe some of the stuff that I see in their portfolios, I would need to include in mine. And find, just like all the examples you gave, doing nonprofit work, or you're finding ways to get that work, or even in some cases, finding projects on your own. I've seen people get hired just from straight mock projects.
Yep.
It's crazy. And being able to create your own, think of yourself as an inventor, you know? Nobody asked for the light bulbs to be created. Someone took that upon themselves and did that. So really good answer there. We have 3 minutes. I'm going to be wary of your time. Let's see. Try to get 2 more. All right, Gabriella says, how did you work with self-doubt and uncertainty once you decided to change careers, or what you thought was your path? So I guess, how did you move through the uncertainty in your transition?
Yeah, I think I kind of like responded to this question back when I was in the ambiguity phase where I didn't know where to go. I was just like fascinated by UX and development, front-end development. I was learning. If you find a passion for, let's say I find my passion for UX and for web development, but I didn't know where that will take me. I just knew that, like, okay, I think everything is going to be digital. It was very like, it's an intuition that you might have. Like in my case, I was like, everything's going to move to digital. So I'm going to learn everything about the tech. I want to work in the tech world. I want to be like in there. So I didn't know necessarily like I was going to be a UX designer, but I just followed my path that time. And then look what he took me. So same thing for you. Like if you want to be a brand designer, like stop going into that path and just like studying everything from there, brand guidelines, stuff like that. Like go into there, read books about it, and then just keep going. Don't stop. Just keep going. If you see something is wrong and you don't like, just pivot and just go to a different way. But it's up to you.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, it's kind of like you're saying, like have landmarks, like read the books of the people you want to become. There's always evidence around us that going a certain direction is a good direction, and if going a certain direction is not a good direction. Right. But if people are flourishing in the direction you want to go, that's your, I guess, faith or the proof that you can. So that will piggybacking off of what you were saying about uncertainty. And we're going to do one last one. Ooh. That is a good question, but Laura, there's a lot of we might save that one. Let me scroll up here. Actually, I'm going to leave this one to you, Ruben, because you have to go. What is the last piece of information or tip or advice you would leave for those watching today?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say, get your foot in the door. Like if you are a graphic designer going into a company as a UX, you're probably not going to get it, but just like get in as a graphic designer. And then once you are in there, you're going to find your opening. You're going to find a door or a window that is going to open, and then you will take that. But then as far as like, becoming a great UX designer from graphic design to UX, first thing you need to do is to pursue a user-focused approach rather than just visuals. That's the first thing. Second, build your portfolio. Build your portfolio. Needs to have case studies. You need to showcase who you are as a person. Also, you have to tell a story about you and the way you showcase your pieces. Build a network. You have to build a network. Get surrounded with people that are in the UX field. Read good books. Take online courses. Invest in yourself. You have to do that and learn new skills. Whether it's user research, whether it's interactive design, whether it's visual design. You have to invest in yourself and learn new skills because that's going to help you at the end of the day. And always be learning. You can find me on UIUX Creative. I'm dropping a book probably end of September that is going to have a lot of stuff about UI design and design principles and stuff. It's going to be lit. So thank you so much. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you,
of course,
Springboard. This has been amazing.
All right, Ruben, thank you so much. And like Ruben said, his links for his social are down below. You can follow up if you guys didn't get your questions answered, and you can have conversations with him in the private. So thank you, Ruben, so much, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, my man. Peace.
All right, thank you. Bye, guys.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for our first guest of Springboard Live. I will do my best to answer some of the questions that you guys have with the time that we have left. But I wanted to say thank you so much for those of you who registered for today. Excuse me, let me clear my throat. You guys will have a chance to rate this episode, what you liked, what you didn't like, and be able to give feedback so we can make these episodes much more better, if that is a term. Basically just better, and just ways that we can help you in your UI UX journey that much better. So, Laura, you had a question about shifting UI UX into another field. You know, I'm gonna piggyback everything off of Ruben. I think everything that he said was a great collective of. I'm not gonna try to repeat or step on what he said. I wanted to hold for the end of today. But like we were talking about, like Ruben said, there's a foundation, right? And UI UX is the starting point to so much more. And just like he was saying, the transition periods is there's a foundation. Graphic design was a foundation for learning code. Coding was the foundation to pair graphic design and code together. UI UX. UI UX opens the door to things like, VR, AR, experiences. So there's so much more. So just keep building your foundations, and that's really it. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, do not forget to like this video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the Springboard channel, and you can catch me and Ruben on our social links down below. But I want to say thank you all for everybody who joined us here today. And with that, I'll see you next time on Springboard Live. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Take it easy. Brandon Gross out. To this episode of Real Talk, brought to you by Springboard. If you're looking to get your start in UI UX, Springboard is the place to begin. We have 2 amazing courses that not only prepare you for the real world of UI UX with an amazing curriculum that actually sticks with the times, we also pair our students with top-notch mentors and advisors, much like our knowledgeable guest today, who helps you along every step of your journey in both learning and job hunting. And like I said before, these courses come with a job guarantee and, of course, a 10% discount. Links down in the description. We hope to see some of you guys in our next upcoming cohort. With that, we hope very much you enjoyed this episode, found it informative, fun, and were able to ask the questions you wanted the answers to. If you still have questions and would like to follow up with either me or our guests, feel free to follow up with us on social media. Both of our links are down in the description. And finally, if you've enjoyed this episode, do not forget to smash that thumbs up button, share this with a friend, and of course, subscribe. With that said, we'll see you on the next one. Brandon Gross and Springboard out. See you next time, guys.
Tell me, are you gonna bring it home? it home. Typical, difficult in my head. You know I love the yellow when I lose control. I won't let you go. I won't let you go. You know I love when you give me sharp waves. Baby, just as wrong.